Hey, my name is Nora Heaton, and I'm an advocate, and I do support services for survivors of sexual abuse and sexual trauma. I work in the Cedar Rapids office, which serves Lynn, Benton, and Jones County.
My name is Carlene Clark. I am a sexual assault advocate in the Dubuque office.
My name is Justin Stites, and I'm an advocate out of the Dubuque office.
My name is Sarah Stengel, and I am a therapist here at the Riverview Center in Dubuque, Iowa.
So I was doing outreach work at one of our community sites, and someone stopped me as I was walking by because he thought that I worked at that location, and so he asked me a question. But since I didn't work there, I didn't know the answer. But I said, well, let me help you find the answer, because I wanted to help and I wanted to be friendly. So we figured out the answer to his question, and then afterwards, it just seemed like he needed someone to talk to. So I said, hey, do you want to talk for a minute? And I let him know who I was and where I worked and what I did as an advocate, and he disclosed to me that he had survived childhood sexual abuse and that he actually did want to talk about it. And this is someone that I don't believe would have approached us with the intent of disclosing to us and wanting to talk about our services, but given that we were right in front of him, he wanted to talk. And this is something that I think is really powerful about advocacy, is that when we're available, that opens up a door for people to talk to us who wouldn't otherwise have gotten to us.
I had this wonderful client come in, and I will never forget our first interaction together. She remembers being outside of our building, not knowing what Riverview Center was, and she was crying, very much in a struggle trigger moment. And for whatever reason, she felt compelled to go into our building. And she comes in, and here I am, and we meet, and for her, that was the transforming moment for her. They identify as LGBTQ. She was able differently, and she was having many different situations from her past traumas throughout her entire life, many different forms. So we started very much at the beginning of her healing process, and to be able to see the amazing transformation and healing journey of this client is incredible.
Some of you may have received a letter about Alex in 2020. I met Alex through a coworker, actually, who had received a crisis call on our 24-hour hotline. And so she had contacted me, and I was able to reach out to Alex and his family. Alex is an 8-year-old boy who was sexually abused by his grandfather. When his family had called our crisis hotline, he had been in such a dire strait. He's 8 years old and was suicidal. He had constant intrusive thoughts, was unable to think of anything other than the abuse, was very afraid to be around his siblings. There were triggers everywhere for him. So he was really struggling when we first met Alex.
I had a client who was gearing up toward a trial, and she had never been through the justice system at all before, and we had to go through a deposition, which is a very brutal process for a survivor, and that is probably most likely the first time that they have to face their abuser. And during COVID, well, pre-COVID, it was usually set up in the courthouse, and it's in a big open room or sometimes even a courtroom. But for COVID purposes, they had it in a conference room of the law enforcement center, and it was really tight and cramped, and the tables were pretty lined up around, so the survivor was kind of surrounded by people that she didn't know and lawyers that weren't on her side, and was just getting badgered by questions. And sitting directly across from her was her abuser for the first time that she's ever seen.
And the thing that is most meaningful to me about that interaction is that at the end of it, when I was getting ready to leave, he had said, "Thank you so much for talking to me. It's nice to know someone thinks I'm worth that much." And I don't think I will ever forget it, because that's probably a message that I hear throughout the course of the day 6 times from different survivors. And that's honestly one of the most challenging things about advocacy to me, and also has the potential to be the most rewarding, is that, so often people who've survived sexual abuse feel marginalized, vulnerable, lonely, isolated, and like their experience doesn't matter, or that their feelings are secondary to other people's sense of convenience. And for someone to know that we actually do know that they're worth that much, to sit down and talk to someone, is really important to me as an advocate.
So when Alex began in therapy, we talked to each other over the phone, and he was able to share some of the thoughts that he had, memories of the abuse, and really we started working on those coping skills. Alex has an amazing family and a lot of support that way, so we were able to support the family as well when Alex was struggling at home, working on those coping skills, those abilities to be able to help in any situation that came up. And so when we were able to transfer over to face-to-face sessions online, it was amazing. We were able to do art therapy work, so he could be working on one side and we can be working and talking about the different things that he's drawing or creating. We're able to do different games, stories, all kinds of things that really work at the level that Alex is at due to his age and development. He's an amazing kiddo and was really able to interact freely with us.
Being able to see the strength that she has, that she's always had. Sometimes that gets lost. So helping her to find that again, to gain the positive body image, the self-confidence, to be able to go out and conquer her day, and to be able to encourage her to keep spreading her light, because by her spreading her light, she's making a difference and she's changing the world. And that's powerful.
It was so impactful to go in there, and we sat down, and she was visibly shaken at first, but once the questions started rolling, she was just cranking them through, speaking very eloquently and very strongly. And then afterwards she kind of broke down and she said, I really appreciate that you were here. That was so difficult, but you couldn't have told that in that moment. It was really special.
I know that advocacy is absolutely, if you call me at 3 a.m. and you say we have a hospital call, someone has been assaulted and they've arrived by ambulance and they're in the ER, 100% I will be there, and I want to be there. Also, I think that advocacy is seeing someone who looks a little bit lost and saying, how are you doing? And meaning it, because I know that we mean it. And that's something that I see with every advocate that I've ever talked to at Riverview Center, is we want to know how you are, and we want to be a support, and we want to help.
Alex has been working with Riverview for about 1.5 years, and he is a changed kiddo. He's doing well in school, he has wonderful friendships, he's able to really interact with his family and share things in a way that he hadn't been able to before. And so if he has any questions, concerns, fears, if he has any kind of thoughts that come up, he's able to share those and talk about those. And so again, it's a much brighter day for Alex.
My favorite part of this job is something that a survivor can hold in their hand, and that might not necessarily be a solid object sometimes. Sometimes it is that my perpetrator is no longer here, and it's something they can technically, not really hold in their hand, but it's something that they can take away from their experience and really quantitate it in that form. And so those are the big moments that are really special to me.
There isn't anyone who is fully exempt from this experience. This experience affects all people, and people deserve the chance to talk about it.
This particular survivor has a huge heart, and she wanted me to deliver a message to other survivors. Don't give up. There's always hope and help. Accept that help and rise up. You can do it. Listen to your heart and trust it.